Before I get started, I would like to point out that I will be displaying the time in your video that you stated what I'm responding to, such as if you said something between 5:23 and 6:03, I will display those numbers on the screen when I respond to the statement in order to make following along easier. Alright, so first point. I argued and am still arguing that one does not need to show how an entity can exist in order to show that the entity does in fact exist. One does not need to know, for instance, how the sun burns the way it does in order to know perfectly well that the sun does exist. I think this principle is pretty much common sense. As far as A causing B, but coming after B, when I said that, I had a sort of scenario in my mind which I still consider somewhat feasible. I realize in hindsight, though, that that scenario is rather weird and unconvincing. So I'll try to attack this issue from a different angle. When we think of time, what are we thinking about? Well, the notion of time is merely what we call the steady progression of linear events. These events are simply composed of a series of causes and effects. With this in mind, is it not causality which is the necessary grounding for time instead of the other way around? In that case, it is entirely possible and indeed necessary that time itself was started by an original cause. For the next point you made, which I will affectionately call the no causality zone, I fully concede that it is feasible that there are an infinite number of uncaused causes. However, I simply have no reason to think that there is any more than one. In my opinion, there does certainly need to be at least one, and I will invoke Occam's razor here and stick with that one. As for the next point, I think you are misunderstanding the meaning of the statement, something cannot come from nothing. Much is made out of this misunderstanding, and I would like to put it to rest. The statement, something cannot come from nothing, is simply another way of stating that if an event occurs or an entity comes into existence, it is necessary that something precede that event. As to what caused the universe to start up, as it were, I think physics has answered this already to the best of its ability. Newton's first law of motion states that an object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. I don't think very many people take exception with this statement. It does not make any sense that the universe spontaneously started moving for no reason whatsoever. Since the universe is all physical matter and energy, it seems that any outside force is required to be metaphysical in order to start it up. You say that singularity did not necessarily ever come into existence. I really don't see how this helps your case much. It, at best, moves the very same problem down a notch. We can just start the Kalam argument all over again, asking the question of the beginning of motion in the universe, and you haven't escaped anything. Now let's move on to your phone example. I actually really like this example. As I am sure you notice, causality exists before the stopwatch starts. You are required to press a button, yes? In this event, although time has not been put into motion yet, as far as the phone is concerned, causality is still in play, and it is necessary for time to get started. I think this reinforces quite well the points I have made previously. Also notice that if nothing at all were happening in your phone, and your phone were the only thing in existence, it makes no sense that the stopwatch would suddenly start counting up for no reason at all. Something is required to start it up. As for determining the importance of a thing by the allocation of space, I would hope that you would agree that this is a category error. It is simply not the case that the space something is able to occupy has any bearing whatsoever on the importance of it. I lay this down at the beginning because it is necessary for the rest of what I'm going to say. I asked you to elaborate on a couple of things you said in your video, and I got this clarification in response. By the disk drive not being any old space, you meant if I just sit a disk on top of the power tower of my computer or anywhere other than in the disk drive, nothing happens. Now, if I understand that correctly, it is similar to me saying that I can't stick life anywhere in the universe and have it survive. Earth isn't just any old place either. What we have come to find out is that life fits into this universe like a disk into a computer. After that, you said that the universe is fine-tuned to allow life, but not to necessitate life. You say that a life-giving world is not an integral part of the universe, and that the universe would go on just fine without the Earth. Well, I'm sorry to say this, but you could just as easily say that about the disk drive in the PlayStation. In fact, you proved this yourself in the comments section by using this logic interchangeably with the PlayStation. But really think about it. I could glue the disk drive shut and plaster rubber cement over it, and the system will still go on as if nothing ever happened. I could still plug it in, it would still flash its little light, it would still shoot its little laser, and so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, if I recall how the PlayStation works, I could still plug it into a television and get a PlayStation logo to pop up on the screen. I also know some talented people who could rewire the PlayStation to work with the disk drive completely removed. As a matter of fact, if the manufacturers had thought they could make any money off of it, they could have produced a game system that simply could not play games. Perhaps you would say, well, you've changed the PlayStation now, so it's not the same machine anymore. The same argument could be used about the Earth and the universe. If you took the Earth out of the universe, it wouldn't be the same universe anymore, just like the PlayStation would be a different game system without a disk drive. You might say, well, the Earth is so small, if you take it out, it won't make much of a difference to the universe. Well, if you revert to that, then you are again judging the importance by the space something takes up. If you have anything I overlooked here, please tell me.